Right, I quite often get asked how to bag a wing or to show how I bag a wing. So I'm building a Ka8, a 5 meter Ka8, it's quite a big glider. This is just the outboard panel that I've got lying here. It's been pre-cut, cut into 3 sections. I've pre-glued a shear web in position. This last little bit is just one vertical layer of carbon, 2 layers of carbon at 45 degrees. And in here I've got a shear web which is made up of carbon, Airix, carbon, Airix, carbon. The carbon is at 45 on each side on the outside, and UD in the middle, vertical grain carbon in the middle, and that's 1.5 mil Airix. And that's pre-glued into a slot which is sanded in here. This little bit of dirt is just me making sure that the shear web is flush with the top of the groove, and that groove is in there for the carbon spark caps that I'll be putting in later. But I also like to do a carbon leading edge and just a wrap of carbon on the front before I do anything else. Now what I have here is I've got a strip of plastic which I've taped down to the workbench. Then I've got a strip of 106 gram glass which is also cut at 45 degrees. It's a nice fabric to work with because it's very tightly woven and it doesn't distort very easily, so it holds its shape quite nicely when you cut it and when you're working and laying it down. So it's a nice tightly woven, fairly lightweight fabric, easy to work with. I actually love working with this stuff. And the skins are actually going to be done with the 106 glass with carbon spark caps and carbon shear web. Right, so on this 106 glass I've taped 3 strips of 24K carbon into position right next to each other. So I've got 3 carbon strips laying next to each other, taped down the center of this piece of glass that I've got also taped, and everything is nicely taped and it can't move around too much. Now all it is a 24K carbon toe. I'll just get a piece off here. So carbon toe, 24K, basically 24,000 individual little fibers making up one of these toes. Those little fibers are, each one is much smaller than a human hair. Right, so this is what I've used, what I'm going to be using for the spark caps and for the leading edge. Now I've mixed up a resin which is fairly fast curing. It's actually about the only time that I use a fast hardener ever. Fast hardeners don't have very good mechanical properties, so I don't like to use them for most of my construction methods, but this is basically just going to be a glue to hold this carbon nicely in position. And it's also quite a sticky resin system that I'm using. Right, so now I've put some resin down on top of all of this, and I'm just going to take my squeegee and I'm going to distribute that resin nice and evenly out over this entire length. Now, because you're working through this 24K carbon toe, it takes a bit of time for the resin to actually penetrate from this side right through to the other side. So you just got to be very careful and work slowly and make sure that this you don't disturb or don't distort the edge of this glass cloth underneath here. If you rub very hard, you can fray those ends. They are at 45 degrees, so they're staying relatively nicely together, but if you push hard directly on the edges, you can quite easily distort that resin. So just carefully with the corner of the card, press down on the carbon toes and work this resin through all those carbon toes down until it gets right through. And I'll turn, when I turn this over, I'll show you that despite the fact that you think that you're getting the resin all the way through, there will definitely be some dry spots on the other side. But you can address that when you put it onto the leading edge. Now, this is just going to wrap around the leading edge. So when I put it on the leading edge, I can then address the dry spots from the other side, basically. So I'm just carefully trying to, there you go, you see I pushed a little bit hard on the glass there, so I started disturbing the glass underneath. It's just with the corner of the card and a bit sort of angled. I'm trying to rub this resin through the carbon only without disturbing the glass underneath too much. It's a bit tricky, takes a bit of time, a bit of effort. So you just got to be careful and work diligently. Right, this is a pretty big wing, so I'm kind of at the ends of my workbench. It's getting there. Next I'd like to just take a brush and try and dab this resin through as much as possible. It's definitely not going to go all the way through. I can almost bet on that. Done this many times, so I know how difficult it is. But let us keep working at this, and I'll show you what it looks like on the other side when I lift this up. So now this is all now nicely consolidated. I can now take this whole thing and stick it onto the leading edge of the wing. Now, in order to get it to stick onto the leading edge of the wing, you need to first paint some resin. I'm going to damage that tip a little bit, but we'll fix that up later. You just need to paint a bit of resin onto the leading edge. Now, I do this all in one go. I don't first put the leading edge on, let it dry, then I come back, put the spark caps in, let them dry. I kind of do this all in one go, and that's one of the reasons why I've chosen this fast setting resin for the adhering the leading edge strip into position, is that I wanted to get into the green stage by the time I'm putting the skins on, so it's kind of holding nicely in position. Right, a little bit of resin on that side, just put some on the other side. A bit of resin all the way along. Sorry that this is taking a while, but I think it will be valuable to everybody. Running out of resin in the cup. You can sop up some of the excess in this plastic here. And there's quite a bit of excess resin on the plastic, so I can use some of that. This just helps to glue this leading edge strip into position. Of course, you've got to be very careful with the foam that you don't damage it when you're working with it like this. Right, so I just want to put a weight or two so it just holds it in position whilst I do the next phase. So the next thing is I need to get this loose from the workbench, so I'm just going to take my scissors, cut right up next to the masking tape. Take that and turf it. Cut this. Now I've made this slightly longer than the wing itself, this piece. Right, so now, because it's so long, it's difficult to basically do it. But now, if you look, you will be able to see quite easily or clearly that this is unwet out. As I said earlier, it would definitely come through and not be fully wet out. But it's fine because I'm going to work from this side. So using the plastic as a transfer method, I've picked up this strip of glass and carbon, and I've stuck it down to the leading edge, the bottom. This is the bottom of the wing. Now I can very carefully just peel away this piece of plastic, making sure that the glass and the carbon bit are stuck into position. Right, we'll turf this piece of plastic now. This is a bit of a gooey mess. Let's get my paper towel. Right, got some of that gum off my fingers, off my gloves. Okay, now I'm going to slide this closer to the edge of the workbench. As long as you can still see that, I'll just move the camera a bit. Right, and then very carefully I just go and I start working this around. So I've got this sticking out past the edge of the foam underneath, and a couple of bristles coming out of my brush. And I can now start working this around to stick on the other side. And at the same time, I'm going to start addressing this dry bit over here. I need a little bit more resin for this job, but I'm going to finish the resin. So now I'm just dabbing from this side. I'm forcing the resin right through from the bottom, right through to the top, in this case now, so that this leading edge strip is completely wet out. Then I will set this whole thing aside and I'll get on to sticking the spark caps in, wetting out the skins, and by the time I come to put the skins on, this will be nicely greened already. Let's cut that off a little bit. Made it a bit too long, so just trim it back. Now I'm going to switch the video off at this point, but I mean I think you can get the idea how I just dab and wet through. And you can take a little bit extra resin if you need, if you find you're not getting enough resin from the actual that's already on here. You can always mix up or get a little bit more resin out of your cup and use that to stick this all down. I'm down to the last of my resin, so probably will have to mix a fraction more, but it seems to be getting there. It's not too bad. Right, so I'm going to carry on just finishing up and getting this all neat and tidy. I'll turn the wing over, make sure that everything's nice, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how I do the spark caps and what have you. Right, so we'll move on to the next video shortly.